Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I think I'll be reaching to say it's a beautiful day. It's actually a dark day. It's noon, but it's like, 6 o'clock in the winter or something. But we're going to get started. I'm going to bring the energy to our session. I just wanted to give a quick tip for those of you showing up early and on time. One of the things that just got put out last week, and actually I learned about this from my sister Cecilia, who's in the GovCon community with us. And it's from DOE. They put out their small business strategic plan, how they plan on really driving more small businesses to support DOE. Anyways, the thing I liked about it is when you follow it through, there's just a ton of small business professionals all throughout DOE. And so if you're trying to get into DOE, I would encourage you to look at that plan, engage with Charlie Smith, who's the WOSB over there, and then his team, and then all throughout the different laboratories and offices. You can get a lot of traction over there because DOD is pretty transparent about the small business professionals who can help you navigate. So just a quick tip for those of you showing up early and on time. I see a lot of you engaging in chat. I appreciate it. I'm going to get started here. Let me just make sure I got my slides going. Let's get started in today's training on how to win more women-owned small business set-aside contracts and more contracts for women-owned businesses in FY 2026. I think it is something that is totally within our control, totally within your control. And I'm going to try to drive down into tips that focus on that. If you're not tracking on this is one of the things I like doing is just really understanding the data, understanding the facts. And I thought it'd be appropriate to start off today's training around women-owned small businesses to just really talk about what does that mean, right? Women make up 50% of the population, basically. But women-owned small businesses, they make up 42% of American businesses. Women-owned businesses, they are reinvesting 90% of their income back into the local communities. That's huge. Women-owned businesses generate $2.7 trillion annually to the American economy. That is a massive impact on the economy and obviously all the way down into the community. Women-owned small businesses, they start almost 50% of new businesses in America. In 2019, that number was 24%. 24% of the businesses in 2019 were started by women. In 2024, it was 49% of the new businesses were started by women. These are huge impacts on communities because, again, when these small businesses grow, they hire people, and that money is reinvested back into the local community. I submit women-owned businesses, especially women-owned small businesses, they're the backbone and the lifeblood of American businesses. This is a big deal. I said that women reinvest 90% of their income back into the communities. And if you look at the statistics, and everything I'm saying is based on facts, except for maybe a couple of opinions in a minute. But these things I'm saying, these are facts. You can just research them yourself. But male-owned businesses are like 30 or 40% reinvesting back in. And women-owned businesses, 90%. That's why I wrote here that they're the backbone and lifeblood of American communities. That might be my opinion, but I would say it's pretty close to fact, right? And then women-owned small businesses sure as heck deserve more than the 5% that is being set aside out there in federal contract dollars. And that's funny. It's not even being set aside because less than 1% is set aside. Far less than 1% is set aside for women-owned small businesses. But when you think about this, right, I think that number should be higher than a 5% goal. But I don't personally care about Congress. I don't think they do a good job. I'm not talking about one party or the other. I don't think they do a good job on the Hub Zone program, on the women-owned program, women-owned small business program. I don't think the federal agencies do a good job on it. They give themselves an A grade, yet the Hub Zone program has never hit its goals. They give themselves an A grade on women-owned small businesses, but barely any small business or federal contracts are going to women-owned small businesses. Certainly, a fraction of a percent is going to women-owned small businesses. Anyways, so what I want to encourage you to do is forget about Congress, forget about the agencies, and really think about what can we control? And we can control a lot. I've done this before, and I might talk about it again in a minute here in another slide. But one tip I give for you is that whatever your goal for 2026 is, 10x it. And I got this from my friend Nina, who's in here as well, Nina Martin. And she reminded me of this book, and it just came out last week, and you can connect with her. She is phenomenal. She's somebody who you definitely want to know. But she pointed this book out to me, and one of the main theses of the book was you need to 10x your goals, not just double your goals or grow by 20 or 30%, but really accelerate how fast you're going to grow and massively increase your expectations of what you're going to do. So if you're thinking you're going to be a $10 million firm, go to 10 million. The how comes later. But first off, it starts with having the vision to be so much larger than where you had it. Because if you have the vision here, 10x, then you might fall down to 8 or 9, right? But if you have the 1x, then you're falling down to a fraction of 1. And then the other thing is, it's not about working 10 times harder. We have family lives, right? I think that disproportionately women have more of a family responsibility, but I homeschool my kids. So I'm actively involved. I have a life. I don't want to work harder. I want to work smarter. And there are ways you can work smarter. And hopefully I'll give you some tips in today's training on that. So if you understand that women-owned small businesses rock, that they're the backbone of America, and that they should be growing faster than they are, put women-owned small businesses rock in the chat. Let's start this off by bringing the sunshine into the chat that's not outside in the sky. All right. I'm going to break up today's training into 3 sections because there's 3 steps basically that I'm going to teach you on how women-owned small businesses can 10x what you're going to grow and where you're going to grow to in 2026. First thing we're going to do is talk about having a clear, focused offer. This is vital. People need to be able to zero in on what it is you sell. Second thing is by building strategic relationships, you're going to find far many doors will open up. So I'll talk about why that's important, and then I'll talk about the how of it. And then finally, I'm going to wrap up with how to push opportunities to women-owned small business set-asides. This is really important. I'll talk about it again in a minute, but you can eliminate more than 97% of your competition if you can push it to women-owned small business set-aside. And I'm telling you, we're not waiting for the government, the contract officers, or whoever to do that. We're going to come with the data and evidence and convince them to do that. They're going to go, oh my God, it totally makes sense. I should set aside a woman-owned small business competition, right? You don't sit there and wait for them to do it. We sit there and make it happen in a cooperative way, but we make it happen. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I'm founder of Call Plan AI. And I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. After I got out of the Army, I spent 20 years in the federal market as a government contractor. Since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. This is what I want for you. This is absolutely what I want for you in FY2026 and calendar 2026 next year. Predictable success. If you're out there and you haven't followed me already on LinkedIn, follow me. Pretty much the only content I put out is content that will help you as a government contractor succeed in the federal market. Also, make sure you subscribe to Government Contracting Success. This is my newsletter on LinkedIn. It is the largest government contracting newsletter on LinkedIn, growing faster than DoD, larger than DoD's newsletter. And it's because the only things I put in there are things that directly help you grow. Again, I'm about federal sales and I'm about your success. Okay, last thing on this slide, just quick mention that tomorrow's training is helping federal buyers find you. One of the biggest problems we have out there with interacting with our buyers is that they can't find us. And so tomorrow is helping federal buyers find you. If you haven't registered on LinkedIn, go do that. Love to have you join me. Okay, I got 21 minutes and a whole bunch of 8 hours worth of content. Let's start off with understanding that in order for women-owned small businesses, and really any business, today's training, I'm focused on women-owned small businesses, but I teach a process that is applicable to every single small business in government contracting. But in today's light, right, in order for women-owned small businesses to have success with federal buyers, federal agencies, and in 2026, you must have a clear, focused offer. A clear, focused offer is one that is just so easy for anybody to understand. I call it a hook, right? So if you've ever heard this term elevator pitch, where you get on an elevator and you got an elevator ride up, and so you've got that much time to convince the other person to keep talking to you or buy what you're selling or whatever it is, right? That's the elevator pitch. But that means you have to get on the elevator to be able to go up. And so somehow you need to be invited on the elevator. Say, all right, come on in. Let's hear that pitch, right? And that's called a hook. If you've ever gone to a networking event at a local chamber of commerce, they often do this at like a breakfast event where they say, hey, everybody stand up 5 to 15 seconds, tell us what you do. Hi, I'm Neil McDonald with ABC Company. We do Microsoft SharePoint services. That's the hook, right? And you need to have a clear hook or clear focused offer that people can understand. And so I write here that it's easy for anybody to understand. And I use SharePoint as an example, right? Microsoft SharePoint services. It doesn't mean everybody's going to buy from me. What it means is that the people who I want to reach will sit there and say yes or no, right? There's only 3 answers you get from people. The people who go, huh? And if they say, huh, you go back to just talking to them about the weather, right? They're not your customer. But if you say Microsoft SharePoint services to anybody who is in my world, they're going to say 2 things. They're going to say, yeah, not interested. Or they're going to say, tell me more, right? That basically is how conversations go. And, and I put water here as another example. Jay Madigan is in this community, does water management, right? And a hook for him might be, especially when you think about this compared to a broader statement, but a hook might be, for him might be, we monitor large bodies of water, right? We monitor the health and safety of a large body of water. So, what did I put here? 3 to 7 words is what I look for. You want something simple. So somebody says that to me, I'm going to go, whatever that is. Right? I don't do anything with water, right? So Jay would instantly know, I'm just going to talk to Neil about the Bears or something, right? And that's the idea of a clear, focused offer that people can instantly get what you're saying and reject you or accept you. And that's okay, right? Think about a gold mine has dirt and gold. You reject the dirt and you accept the gold. Sales is the same way. You reject the no's and you accept the yeses. You have to have both in order to have a gold mine. You have to have both a yes and a no for you to be doing any kind of sales. If you're doing sales and you're not getting no's, then you're in the wrong. You're not doing enough activity. So, and you should go to play the lottery if you get like three yeses in a row. Something's odd. Okay, so a clear, focused offer. I said clear, right? Easy for anyone to understand. The second thing is it needs to be focused. It needs to be niched down. So in this case, what I was saying is don't sell everything. I ran into a person who was in our community here, and she was selling construction. In particular, so it was construction services. In particular, I think it was flooring, walling, or flooring, painting, and elevators or something. And so as we had a conversation with her and she learned, she just acknowledged to herself that the elevator services was her preferred and it was also the most profitable. She started saying that she does elevator services. She focused down from construction, from 3 types of construction to 1. Now, when she goes in and does elevator services, and that's what she's selling, what do? We do elevator services. We do elevator installation and services, right? That clear thing. When she goes in, though, and she's talking to that buyer, then she can expand. I notice those floors are pretty ratty. You want me to replace them, right? I know we just installed a new elevator and we're going to make this part look good, but the rest of the hallways look bad. You want us to put a fresh coat of paint on it, right? You can expand what you sell once you're in a customer. But when you're trying to grow your business, when you're trying to get more sales, more customers, you need to have a clear, focused offer. And focus means really niched down. For me, I said I sold Microsoft SharePoint. I didn't say I sold everything Microsoft. I didn't say I sold software development. I didn't say I do IT or information technology. I said I did Microsoft SharePoint services. One product that Microsoft had was my clear, focused offer. And when you do this, you're able to fight FOMO. One of the problems with us small businesses is that we fear that if we say we only do elevator services or we only do cybersecurity, then we're going to miss out on these other opportunities. And that's not how it works. Those other opportunities and your opportunity, your clear, focused offer, are all rabbits. And if you try to chase 3 rabbits, you're not eating dinner tonight. Because that's kind of the line in sales. If you chase 2 rabbits, you're not eating. And so niching down allows you to fight FOMO and stay away from all the possible things and just focus on what are you good at and drive towards that one thing. And I already kind of alluded to this, but you have to believe that one thing is going to be a beachhead. So for me, I would use, let me just use Rafa, who does elevator services, right? She gets in with elevators. Now she's a trusted provider to like a VA hospital as an example. And she does do construction, right? She has teaming partners who can do that. So she can expand, but she used elevator services as a beachhead If you don't understand a beachhead, think World War II and D-Day, June 6th, when we went into Europe, right? The Americans in particular went into Europe, well, I guess with our allies, but we went into Europe, right? We establish a beachhead. First you get in, and then you start bringing supplies and tanks on, and then you can go farther inland into Europe. Well, we did the same thing in sales. We just get an opportunity, and then we push farther in. So you have to believe that if you niche down, your clear focused offer is niched down, that it will serve as a beachhead for you, and you will be able to grow within that customer to wherever you want to grow. But the first thing is to get in. All right, so do me a favor really quick. I don't know if some of you are already doing this, but write down, what is your clear focused offer? If you just have, 3 to 7 words, what is your clear focused offer out there? And I'm trying to see if some people did it. Like here, Barbara writes, we do all things cybersecurity and CMMC compliance. I would challenge Barbara softly that cybersecurity is too big. Do you do offensive cyber where you attack China? Do you do defensive cyber where you're protecting against China? Do you do risk management framework, ATOs? Do you do information assurance, which is basically, for everybody else, it's cybersecurity on software or something? So there's all sorts of things in cybersecurity. And if you say I do all cybersecurity, you won't be able to tighten down into whose door to knock on, et cetera. Barbara, thanks for letting me use you as an example there. But that's a perfect one, right? I do like Lisa's where it's forensic accounting. I'm assuming to anybody in her world that would make sense immediately, right? It's like, don't talk to me or talk to me. But forensic accounting and fraud examiner, that stuff just, it seems to me, and I don't know what it is, it rings true. Like I can guess, right? So somebody who she's actually targeting will get it in a second. All right, so write down. I want to look at those later and see what's there. Land and expand. I like that, Brett. Okay, so the first thing is have a clear, focused offer. I should have put somebody write that in if you haven't done that. Put clear, focused offer in the chat. Second thing you need to do is to develop strategic relationships. If you want to have success in 2026, you will not do it alone. You will do it with strategic relationships. In sales, especially in government contracting, for 20 years as I was a small business owner, I heard this myself, right? It's not what you know, but it's who you know. It's not what you know, but who you know. And I would modify that a little bit to sit there and say, well, it's not who you know, but who knows you, right? They say that people buy from those they know, like, and trust. And so when I say modify it to who knows you, it's important that they know you more than you know them. Right. And that's about visibility. I talk a lot about visibility in many other trainings, but fundamentally, visibility is being findable by the buyer when they're looking for you, and attractive in the sense that if they're looking for forensic accounting and they come in and they find Lisa, I think it was, they see her marketing blurbs and it all reinforces that. That's attractive. Right? That other material, it doesn't say, oh, we do taxes and we do this and we do IT and whatever, and we install ERP programs. It's just too crazy. I was looking for somebody who's expert at forensic accounting. And so that's when you're being visible, you want to be findable for it and then attractive on that. And so this comes down to, as you're building relationships out there, you can build some relationships that are strategic relationships. And I can't remember if I did it here. I didn't. So I'll just tell you really quick that there's a difference between your network and relationships and strategic relationships. So your network's people you meet at a conference, the people you meet inside of here, right? You're in my network, I'm in your network. Thanks for putting clear focus offer in the chat, everybody. I saw that. You're my network, right? We're all in a network. Some of us talk more together. And so, we have a relationship that we have developed. Maybe we've teamed on a couple of opportunities together. That's still not a strategic relationship, which I'll get to in a second. That's just relationships. What I want you to watch out for is that sometimes networking, talking to a lot of different people, maybe even working on some white papers together or something, I call that constructive procrastination. You're doing stuff that seems like it's appropriate and helpful, et cetera, but it's not what needs to be done. So it's not that it should not be done. It's that there should be something else that is being done first. And what should be done first is for you to develop strategic relationships with other companies, other people who have a mutual commitment to success or a commitment to mutual success, right? And what this means is both sides are actively trying to grow the other company, right? You're very involved. You have a joint pipeline, right? It's just spreadsheet or something, but you're coming together, you're talking, you're meeting every 2 weeks. That's a strategic relationship. And think about your personal life. You can't have that many friends, not that many close friends, right? You can go to a ball game and see a whole bunch of people or something, go to the bar and go dancing. There's all my friends. Sure, they're my friends, but they're my friends there. But I don't share a lot of my, intimate details, my feelings about life or all that. That's too heavy, right? It's too deep to do with more than just a small number of people. For personal relationships, that number is like 5. For business relationships, you can expand it out to what I say is 8 to 16. If you're brand new in government contracting, if you're brand new in building relationships and interacting with people, make that number closer to 8, right? And it should be 8 small businesses. But if you are more experienced, like me, I could easily handle 24 strategic relationships. If I was nothing but a business developer for your company, I could handle 24 relationships because I would meet once every 2 weeks for 30 minutes with those people. And maybe I'd spend another half hour on that strategic relationship, right? And so with 24 people, that's 12 hours. 12 hours every 2 weeks, or 24 hours with that extra that I did. But out of an 80-hour window, that's 24 hours. What am I doing the rest of the time? And again, remember, if I'm a business developer or capture person, salesperson, then the rest of the time I'm working on my pipeline and talking to the government. Even working with these people, I'm not spending all my time talking to them. We walk away with action items. We're doing stuff for each other to come back every 2 weeks and say, hey, I moved the opportunity along this way. I said I would talk to the customer. I said I would go find this information, right? And whether I had those strategic relationships or not, I'd still be doing those activities because these opportunities are ones I would want to pursue. Anyways, it's really important to understand that strategic relationships and how they work. And I've done at least 50, probably closer to 100 trainings in the last few years that are on how to build strategic relationships. It is such a vital thing. I literally stood up Call Plan AI to build that, which I'll talk about another time, right? But strategic relationships, here's the way to think about it, especially if you're just getting started and you've got a good core competency, that clear focused offer that you have. If you have that and then you build strategic relationships with 8 different companies, and these companies should be big enough that they can easily accommodate whatever kind of revenue or size share of the opportunity you want to go after. If you do that, you basically have increased your company's sales team by 8 people, by 16 people, because those people are looking out for opportunities. Does that make sense? Those people are looking out for opportunities that they like. And because they have a strategic relationship with you that you're managing for both of you, because they have that, they'll be bringing these opportunities back saying, hey, what do you think of this, Jane? Does this opportunity fit in with you guys? I think it does, right? And if you pick the right strategic relationships, more likely their opportunities are all going to have some fit for you. You don't pick somebody in construction if you're cybersecurity, right? You pick somebody who's in IT, who's in, and while you're in cybersecurity, then the chances of you aligning fit really well. Okay, so one last thing I put here is that strategic relationships, you want to aim for 16 of these. For each individual who's full-time dedicated to sales, like business developer, capture, et cetera, you can easily manage 16 strategic relationships. That's a time management skill you just develop, but when you do, it will rock your business in a positive way. There's 3 types of people you want to be building relationships with, or organizations, right? Small businesses, large businesses, and federal agencies. You want to build relationships, strategic relationships with people in there. So an example is, if I was doing SharePoint still, I would be building, and say I want to get in the Navy, I would find people in PEO digital, like the program manager, deputy program managers. I would find whoever's in charge of this thing called flank speed, which is basically what the Navy calls SharePoint, and I'd get in. It might take a little bit of time for me to find them, but then I will build a strategic relationship. Again, I talk about how to do that in many different ways. And for small businesses and larges, I would do the same thing. I would be coming in, trying to figure out how can I identify them and then build that relationship. That is a vital thing you want to plan out right now for the next couple of months. You go, I'm going to build strategic relationships. So going into 2026, I have solidly established strategic relationships that will lead to my success in 2026. Okay, so really quickly, I wanted to thank our sponsors for today's live. I really appreciate when they are supporting me. I've been doing this a long time, since 2018, and the lives I've been doing the last 3-4 years. I'm coming up to close to 1,000 lives, and having sponsors support me is a big deal on there. So thank you to Graham Inc. They do staffing and recruiting services. In particular, they also do American Sign Language services. If you know anybody who needs ASL services, reach out or remember Graham. Steel Toe does CMMC and cybersecurity support. If you're looking to work with DoD, you're definitely going to need to talk to somebody about CMMC, and Steel Toe is standing by. And then I wanted to thank Restream, who's sponsoring us. They're the ones I come out on and deliver these lives to you. So I really appreciate their support. They enable me to be able to go out live on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, etc. And then my own company, Call Plan AI. I never have enough time to talk about it, but if you're looking to start and build relationships and you really want to succeed there, check out www.callplanai. Okay, so let me get to this last one about how do you push opportunities to women-owned small businesses. And I only have 4 minutes, so I'm going to go a little fast. But I got a ton of training on this. First thing I want to say is it's really important to reduce competition. If you can push an opportunity that you love for your company and push it to a woman-owned small business set aside, you have just reduced the competition by 97%. I put here that there's 960,000 small businesses as of August 17th. That was yesterday. 360,000 small businesses. Of those, only 9,700 are SBA certified. And when you push this to woman-owned small business, only those 10,000 firms now can compete. Imagine 97 people in a room and the government says, 100 people in a room and the government says 97 of you leave. Now you got three people, you and 2 competitors. That's a good day. I'm going to skip the other part. The other thing is I want you to remember if an agency is not hitting its goal, if it's not even near hitting its goal, then it's never going to hit its goal until somebody forces it. Don't go knocking on their doors if you're trying to get women-owned small business set-asides. They could be good for something else, but they're not good for that. Instead, go to USA Spending, go to fpds.gov, go in there and find out which which agencies are awarding the most set-asides to women-owned small businesses. They're actually doing women-owned small business set-asides. Like, that's the competition type. You want to find out what those agencies are. I just did a post this morning that listed the top 10. Army, I think Army, Air Force, Navy kind of thing, right? Missile Defense, in State Department was up there, and TSA, I think, was in there. So find the agencies that already have contracting officers that believe in women-owned small business value and are showing that belief by setting aside contracts, because you don't have to convince them to use a woman-owned small business set-aside. You just have to convince them that 2 or more businesses will show up with qualified proposals that they could award to. Okay, understand how a set-aside is done. This is going to be really fast. But set-asides are not, forget about that rule of 2 and things like that. I know people talk a lot about it. That's policy. The way it actually works is a contracting officer is not setting anything aside to anybody unless they're sure that they'll be able to award a contract. Because if they can't, they have to recompete the whole thing, right? And so even with small business, no tags, but just small business, contracting officers worry about it. It's like, if I award this, will a small business be able to support it, right? So it's our job to show up and make sure they understand this. And this is why I say that I do it somewhere else, and I'll talk about it more, but you need to have a cohort of 20 small business, women-owned small businesses that you work with that are all in similar space as you, that agree to go after RFIs together. You don't actually even work together. You just say, hey, here's an RFI, let's go after it. I did this with the HubZone program and was able to push $3 billion more in one single year to HubZone programs or HubZone businesses just by getting them to work together. So it's a big deal. But if you understand how the approach works, it starts with market research, the sources sought, right? The government needs to get enough sources sought responses in order to have confidence that they should set it aside and that they will get enough proposals that they can weed out the non-compliant ones and still have compliant good ones to award a contract. So those are the 4 steps. Okay, so the last bullet I had here, and I apologize, I'm going so fast. I'm definitely going to come back on this slide and just do a whole training on it. But ask for women-owned small business set-aside only. If you're going in and trying to get something pushed to set-aside, women-owned small business set-aside, don't go, or 8A or STBO. Pick one and dive in. If you give them two, then you might as well not even have asked for them to set it aside. It is about getting more women, small businesses to respond and to a sources sought. When enough people respond to a sources sought notice, the contracting officer will have the data and evidence to feel comfortable to award to a woman-owned small business. All right, I'm in danger of actually going over time, but here's what I want you to remember. Lock down a clear, focused offer. Build 8 strategic relationships at least that will lead you into 2026, and build a cohort of 20 other women-owned small businesses in your space. When you do these 3 things, you will massively increase your chances for success in 2026. Hey, just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret, it's just a process. Part of the process is ending on time. I am out of here.